Liverpool regionals just concluded, and we have the top 8 decks in from Europe. Now, the 8 decks here are some very weird and interesting decks because we didn't expect to see GOODRA, especially 2 of them, in the top 8. And, well, this was the last tournament of our Silver Tempest format. Now, if you're looking forward to Crown Zenith, the format does not change too much, but you guys can draw some inspiration from some of these decks. We saw Leon Kesserling win the tournament with his Mew quote-unquote control deck, playing a lot of weird and innovative cards in there, but it did work out in his favor. Stefan Ivanov, a former international champion, 2-time international champion, taking second place with his GOODRA deck. We saw some other big names in this cut, like Sander Warchick, the Control God, Ryan Morehouse, Raus Wolpe, Kimpo Bega, these names that people have seen time and time again. So let's jump into their decks. We saw Leon's quote-unquote Control Mew deck. What makes it a Control Mew deck? Well, Leon played a lot of hand disruption in the form of 2 Judge, a Marnie, and a Roxanne towards the end of the game, opting to play 2 bosses and no Serenas. His stadium count revolved around having 2 Lost City and a collapsed stadium, putting him in situations that could, squeeze out games towards the end, playing a big Parasol as well to just kind of deal with certain matchups like the Yveltal. Playing very few counts of certain things like switch cards, the tools, all of these, just because he wanted to have an answer to everything. So Leon's Mew list was a little bit greedy across the board, but it did the job where it was supposed to. The collapsed stadium plus 2 Lost City giving him a good Reggie matchup. He did beat me in the tournament, so yeah. There was the tournament there. And second off, we had Stefan Ivanov's GOODRA deck. Now, Stefan took a spin of both the Sosa brothers' GOODRA list that they played over in San Diego, playing no Sableye. Just a consistent, straightforward build with 4 capture energies, playing the Raihan, playing 2 Roxannes for late game insurance because GOODRA does not usually go down in 1 hit. That's the whole point of the whole rolling iron attack, doing 200 and taking 80 less damage in the following turn. So, playing a very consistent 3 boss. We're seeing Serena kind of phase their way out of lists as we're getting deeper and deeper into the format because there are more and more things that we want to boss up and win the game with. A Drapion for the Mew matchup as well, and then 3 Temple of Sinnoh, which is very interesting to deal with a lot of these weird matchups, especially Lugia and their powerful energies, or Yveltal in their and the one-shot potential. By putting the Sinnoh down and going for the GOODRA attack, you're kind of saying that the Yveltal or the Lugia player needs to find all their pieces in one turn to even one-shot you, which is not that difficult for Lugia to do, but you're still forcing them to have an issue. No copies of Parasol, most interestingly, in this list, but this just seems like a very consistent, heavy counts across the board list for the GOODRA. In third, we had Mikey Block playing Amazing Rare Rayquaza, a deck that we saw do very well in San Diego as well. And here we see Mikey's list playing pretty much the stock standard list with only 1 Raikou as opposed to the 2 that we've seen in a couple of lists so far, playing pretty much everything else down the line with the Oranguru, with the Manaphy, 2 Raihans, a Boss's Order, and the list makes sense, the deck makes sense. It's one of the most powerful Lost Box variants right now. No argument against it. In fourth place, we had Roz playing Lugia. Roz was playing Raikou as well in the Lugia, with the Stoutland, Dunsparce, and Manaphy becoming quite the staple. A canceling Cologne, and Roz's most interesting tech in here was the Irida, acting as a Skyla by getting the 1 item you need. In most cases, it will be the Cologne or the Vacuum or the 1 choice belt that now lists have cut down to. But most importantly, it also fetches you a Luminion to give you a supporter for next turn if you need it. Now, I know the argument for Skyla is that if you play Skyla, you could just go find a supporter for next turn or the stadium that turn or something like immediately. But I guess the Irida can be better in some situations. I think maybe the Skyla is just better because you can grab like a boss or Serena or like a research or something for next turn as well. But I guess the fish does the job just as well, given how the deck has been working. Now, Roz is playing Zard, Yveltal, and Raikou, but only playing 1 Heat Energy, meaning that the Raikou can only use the 3 Aurora, so it's a little bit of a greedy decision here, but it paid off for them. In fifth, we have Kimpo Bega playing Lugia as well. A much more different look at Lugia here, with a greedier Lugia line playing all 3 of the same attackers and a Drapion to do with the Mew matchup, but Kim also ends up sporting copies of a Heat, a Speed, and a Hiding Energy to make sure he can use all of his attackers efficiently. Now, this gives you a ton of leeway because now you have 7 colored energy, 6 specifically to use with both Zard and Yveltal, and then giving you 5 potential ones to use with the Raikou. 2 copies of Canceling Cologne make their way into this list, a Collapsed Stadium, a Vacuum, and we see the Serena, a Bird Keeper, and 2 Boss. 2 Research only, which is a little bit interesting, meaning that we're playing a lot less discard and draw effects. But, I mean, I guess if you can just find your supporters, you don't really need them. You have 2 Luminion. In sixth place, we have Ryan Morehouse playing Fusion Mew. Now, Ryan was playing a little bit of an aggressive Fusion Mew list with catchers, with 3 catchers, 4 Fusion Energies, a V-Guard Energy, 3 losses Sparkle, 1 Judge, 1 Silene, 1... Like, a bunch of 1-ofs down the line. But the whole idea is to get the turn 1 knockout on whatever you want to get the knockout on, as Fusion Mew would want to. Only playing a 3-2 Mew VMAX line, which is a little bit greedy. But obviously, you only need 2 Mews in a game. So you'll probably get there and you'll probably be fine. Ryan had great success. I played against Ryan in the tournament and did take the dub against him. But in the long term, you just want to chase down some things and, put a lot of effort on. Like, just take the knockout where you want. Get the turn 1 Lugia knockout, get the turn 1 Mew knockout in the mirror match. Like, you just want to control the board from the get-go, and that's exactly what Ryan did, losing to Amazing Rayquaza, which I don't think is the best of matchups for Mew VMAX, but yeah. And then in 7th, we had Vinny. Vinny was playing GOODRA as well. Vinny played pretty much a very similar list to Stefan, actually, playing the 2-3 GOODRA with the 3 Temple of Sinnoh with 2 Parasol. I think this list is much closer to the Israel Sosa's list, playing the Drapion, playing all of these tech cards, especially the Parasols. So yeah, I think this is more of an homage to the Sosa brothers list, putting us at another GOODRA in top 8, which is really crazy because GOODRA was like a deck that was not really on the map for quite a while until the Sosa brothers brought it, and then all of a sudden we see 2 making the top 8, especially in the Swan Song tournament of Silver Tempest, not Liverpool. I saw both words and confused myself. And then finally, we have the Control God Sander Warchick himself playing another contraption that he designed. This time, it was kind of a turbo Evital deck that focuses on getting down to a solo flying Pikachu, because I guess a solo flying Pikachu beats a lot of decks in this format. Now, there's a couple of problems with this deck, I think, in the grand scheme of things. And I think Sander, while he won a lot of games and did make top 8, his deck was fundamentally a little bit wonky for this one, given he didn't play Silene, he didn't play Palpet, he didn't really have a way to infinitely loop besides Reggie Alecki putting cards back in his hand. The idea was that he'd take all 6 of his prize cards at some point before he has to use an Eldegoss loop idea going for him. And Pikachu is for your treat, so you gotta get Eldegoss, throw up something else or whatever. But there's no real way to exhaust your opponent of their resources besides bossing stuff and using Galar Mine to stick it in the active. Only 1 Parasol meant that if a Reggie deck or something played a Vacuum, it pretty much auto wins the Flying Pikachu, which I almost did, which is kind of disappointing. I almost won this matchup anyway. But 1 Crushing Hammer, 1 Shoes, a lot of random one-of cards that he opted to play. And this one seemed like a little bit more of a pile than some of the other control decks. A lot of it relying on getting to the Starly Birdkeeper towards the end of the game, going into Starly Birdkeeper and saying, hey, let's get my combo up and running, go into the Thornton, go into the 1-1 Flying Pikachu VMAX, and then stick that there in the active, playing a bunch of energies to draw with the Greninja, and just go into the Alecki, putting resources back. A lot of just getting to the 1-1 Flying Pikachu is what this deck is trying to do, it looks like. But obviously, it's not like a perfect lock deck, and I think a lot of Sander's game were won on a thin margin, and some fortunate luck on his part. So yeah, that's my analysis of this top 8 of Liverpool. I actually played against 3 of the players in this top 8. Ryan Morehouse, whomst I beat, Leon and Sander, who I both lost to. I did lose 2 win-ins, so it did happen. But that all being said, that was the top 8 of Liverpool. If you want to see my report, I'll put it somewhere up here at some point. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and see you guys next time.